Happy Friday, everybody. We made it. All right, so I've got a couple things to go over because next week we are probably going to have a quiz. And it is very important, I have it open to this, that probably some problems will come from moving words. Now remember, it's very important. I'm going to look at, I think, number 21. It's very important. Here is the original problem. So you need to make sure that you are not going straight across. You will not get credit. This whole assignment was intended that you learn how to cross reduce. So when we get to bigger numbers, in fact, these are big numbers already. So 8 and 6, 2 goes into them. So take half of that. Remember it was 4. And cross that. It is very important to cross that out. Half of the 6 is 3. So our new numbers are 4 and 3. The 8 and 6 should not be there. You will not get full credit unless you cross those out. Same thing with the 9 and the 15. 3 goes into both of those, so I'm going to cross both of those out. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So that's a real quick review. Some of you are doing something like this. You're dividing by 2 and putting a 4 here, dividing by 6 and putting a 3, then you're dividing by 3, and you're dividing by 3 and getting a 5 here. That work is not acceptable because these numbers are gone. The 9 and the 15 is gone. The 8 and the 6 is gone. So we're going to look for scholarly work in everything that you do. So those are problems that you should probably go over. The next one is 7A and B. Could be 7 too. But we had done this one, the orgo. And again, if you need to pause this, I think I had already showed this, but you can go back and look how I did those problems on. This is the one where we're adding on the check plus. So that step must be shown first. And then also real quick, so again, if you need to pause that because I need to move on. If you want to pause this is Did You Hear About? 7B. With the correct answers, you might see some word problems coming from this hint. So again, check your answers. Pause it, please, to get those. Then I want to go straight to, the quiz is going to be up to and through 11A, B, and C. So I finished out the 11A. We did most of those together. I can't remember which are the new ones I finished out. I don't know. But go down and check. Make sure that you have the labeling. Again, if you need to pause that. And if you didn't get some of the labeling correct, again, you need to look back at the question. How many people? 6 people. How many, where is it? How many laps? 26 laps, and so on. So I'm going to flip it over to the 11B. Pause it so you can get all your answers. I have not done all the labeling because I'm going to look at your labeling. Again, make sure you're showing all the correct work. And I noticed something. Well, let me wait just one second, then I'll tell you. So pause that, get all the 11B. And then here is 11C. Get all the 11C answers. Now, I want to show you something that a couple people were doing that, sorry, people, you can't do that, is on these problems. For example, this says, if John wants to give 1 1/15 limes to each of his classmates. Again, we said the first number is what you're dividing. The second number is what you are not dividing. So that 1 1/15, we're not dividing. That's how much each of them are going to get. We're dividing up the 48. You must put the original numbers coming from the problem. So you need to put the 48 divided by this. The second step, you may not do leave, change, flip. You cannot do that. And I'm going to be taking points off. If you do, you have to do your check plus first, where you still have the division. And then once you have that, again, this was 16 over 15. I need to see that. Then you can do your leave, change, flip. And again, good practice is reducing out 16 with 48 because it went in 3 times. So again, if you need to write how I did them again, and the ones that I didn't do last time, if you want to get those, you may do that. So that's what you should be looking back at. Then here we go. Oh, and also, yes, make sure that you know how to do 10A, where you've got two fractions that you have to do check plus on. Then leave change flip. All right, so let's move on to the next pages that we're going to do. And let me get back to where I left off. So again, review C55, 7A, 7B, also assignment 10. And that should get you through the quiz, which is going to be counted as a test grade when we have it next week. And I presume it's going to be on Thursday. We're going to start on this page. And I'm going to do several of these with you. So just pointing out a couple things as we go. All right, so this one, you're going to actually solve it. Remember, so forget this mental business. Is make sure that you put your 36 over 1, and then you're going to use your cross reducing. I'm going to go over a couple of these that we're just going to go over real quick and answer them. It says, Joe said that when you multiply by a non-zero whole number by a fraction less than 1, the product is always less than the whole number. Do you agree? Well, let me just take a whole number. Times a fraction less than 1. Well, what do you think you get? What is 4 times a half? Or I'll say it otherwise, half of 4. You get 2. Is the product less than the whole number? Yes. So actually I could put a 5 here. Half of that would be 2.5. It is true that when you have a whole number times a fraction that's less than a 1, your answer will always be less than the whole number. So this is true. Do you agree? Yes. Okay, so we're going to do some of these oddity problems. Let's look at this one here. This says, who ran the most miles by the end of the week? Use the table below. So there is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and here's Pat. He ran 2.75, 3, and 2.5. Well, I'm going to help you with him, and then you're going to have to do the other and show both of those answers. Maybe put a line here for the total. So let's just recall good adding skills. So their whole week is Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. That's when they run. So again, you must line up decimals. So here is Pat, a decimal, and another decimal. I need 3 decimals there. I'm a little off center here. So let me fix that up. Okay. So the first one is 2.75. Well, does anybody remember what you have to do if that does not have a decimal? And if you said put a decimal on it, you are right, like a period in a sentence at the end. So that's going to be lined up like that. And then good practice is put a 0 and another one because that has 2 places. Then let's put the next one, the 2.5, and that should be right next to that decimal. And let's add that up. So that is going to be 5, that is 12, put my decimal, carry the little 1. So now that's 3, and another 3 is 6, 7, 8. And am I right? Well, of course, because it is at the bottom. So Pat's, the miles that he ran was 8.25. And I don't have room to write the labeling, but we'll assume it's miles. All right. In fact, I'll put Pat's miles. All right. Oh, look who's here. Okay, now this is real interesting. I think this is from, if I'm not mistaken, 1997. You don't need to remember the years, but the name on this one is Snort the Bull, because he's got I guess a snorty nose. Some of you look this up on eBay or something. They are selling, some people, I don't think they're going to get it, some people are selling this little stuffed tie baby for up to $7,500. crazy. Would I pay that? No, I'd pay about $1 for this. But, they say they're collector's items, but this one's worth about $1. Anyway, say goodbye. Bye. All right, here we go. So, who was that again? Snort the bull. All right, so let's move on to some of the oddities. Let's do this one here, the number 44. So, I'm going to start that one in the spiral. Well, we better read it first, I guess. How much change will Stacy get if she buys 2 CDs and 2 books and gives the clerk 2 $20 bills? Well, first of all, what's 2 $20 bills? If you said 40, you are correct. Now, I'm not going to use this example just yet. What if I bought something for $10 and I give the clerk 40? Again, I have $40 in my hand. I buy something for 10. How much change am I going to get? If you said 30, you're right. So when you see how much change, that generally means you need to subtract. And I may or may not work through this whole thing, but I don't want you to stress out because it's a little tricky. It says, if she buys 2 CDs. So let's see where the CD. Okay, so CDs cost $8.25, $8.25. How many is she buying? 2. So on this 44, again, this is assignment number 12. If you submit it, you should submit it. Put video 12, work, dash, and your first name. That's good enough. All right, so anyway, so they bought how many CDs? They bought 2. So you should go 8.75 and another 8.75. I think I'm just going to start this with you. Then they bought 2 books. Well, look at this. 2 books cost 10. Should I take a 10 and then add another 10 because it's 2 books? If you said no, you are correct because the 2 books together cost 10. So you just need to add that one more 10. Find out how much the total purchase is. And then how do you find out how much change? Remember we talked about that? If I buy something for 10, 40 minus 10. So I'm going to let you finish that one up. Let's go to another one, the 45. So it says, which of the following shows the correct relationship? The recipe calls for a half a cup of walnuts, 3/16 cup of dates. Which one is the correct relationship? So I'm just going to do it the fast way, and I'm just going to do one of them. I don't believe this mixed up answer is down there, so you're just going to have to get it right. I'm going to use the cross multiplying way. So upwards towards heaven, 2 times 3 is 6. 16 times 1 is 16. And 16 is greater than 6. But is that the correct symbol for greater than? No. It should have been 16 is greater than. So this one is not correct. And I will let you finish those. All righty. Okay, we're at 13 minutes right now. So let's see. Now let's get into the heart of some of these word problems. So let's start with the number 43. It says, about how much would his or her weight be on Mars? On Mars, your weight is, and that usually means equal. Your weight is equal to about 1/3 of your weight on Earth. I don't know if I talked about it before. I think I did in a multiplication problem. But when you see a decimal or a fraction or a percent, and then there's an of that follows it, it means multiplication. Again, make sure that you're showing all your work. So I'm going to set it up a little bit more organized for you. So Mars, your weight on Mars, is equal to 1/3 of your weight on Earth. 1/3 of your Earth's weight. So all I would need to find my Mars weight is I need to find what I weigh on Earth. So let's continue reading. If a 5th grader weighs 96 pounds on Earth, about, oh, there it is. How much would he weigh on Mars? So instead of that E, I'm going to trade that out. I'm going to keep my nice, neat notes. 1/3. The of means times. The E is, the amount on Earth is 96 over 1. And because there's two ones here, I'm not going to stress too much about you crossing those out. You know, I will, just because I really want you to know that method. So 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into that 32 times. So our final answer, almost final, is 32 over 1, which is what? Which is 32. And it's a word problem. So it is pounds. That is the symbol. In Spanish, libra means pound. I think that vote comes from the Latin root. I believe they're almost the same. So again, find your answer at the bottom and cross it off. So the biggest thing today in some of the lessons is that 1/3 of, which means it's going to be a multiplication. So, okay, so we've done those two. Okay, I'm going to try to help you sort of with this one. Give you hints. So this one says, how many hours? This is very important. How many hours a day does a lion sleep? What do they want the answer in? They want it in hours. So you need to make sure you're looking for hours. Lions spend 5/6 of, following a fraction. What did we just say that meant? You said multiply, you are correct. So lions spend 5/6 of their days. Wait a second, this says day. But my answer has to be in hours. How do you think you can fix that? Should I change hours to days? Or should I change the days to hours? Well, if you said days to hours, you are correct because that's what we want our answer in. So how many hours are in a day? Again, if you said 24, you are so smart. So go ahead and put your 24. And then guess what you're going to have to do to set it up? So you're going to put your 5/6 of the 24. On this one, I will let you go ahead and put a little X. 5/6 times the 24 over 1. And then I'm going to let you finish solving that. So let's go down to this one. This very last one. So it says, how many ounces? I'm looking for ounces. How many ounces of silver do 100 of those coins contain? Why is this blurry? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and look at this. Which means 1. 1965 US half dollar contains 2/5 ounce of silver. Okay, so that's 1. So if I have 1, it would be 2/5 of silver. If I have another one, it would be 2/5 silver. If I have another one, it'd be 2/5 silver. But what if I have 100 of them? Should I write 2/5 100 times? How do you think you can get that answer a little bit faster? If you said multiply, you are correct. So 100, actually on this one, I would probably go, well, I could say 2/5 of the 100 contains silver. I could do that. So 2/5 of the 100 coins contains silver. You finish that up by correcting your symbol, putting a 1 under the 100, doing your cross reducing, and finishing that up. And so you're going to, anything that we didn't do, you are going to finish up on this page. Please do your work on here. You could maybe even, if you could squeeze this, I couldn't do it to show you, but if you could squeeze the addition over here and maybe your subtraction, because I don't want to have you take a whole picture for one problem in your spiral. So get all of your work on this worksheet. This is page 279. Then let's look at the next page. Because I don't want to take a lot of time going over page 282 and also 285, Your only extra page is the 282. So again, it is going to be the 279 and the 282. So the ones that we are going to do on this is I'm going to help you start with this one because this one gets a little weird. All right, so who received the most votes? All right, it says, so here's candidate Shelley. Fraction of the votes received, 1/10. Daley got 2/8 of the votes received. And again, I'm going to try to do it on this so you don't have to, because there's so much room for every other problem. If there's not enough room for something, we're going to try to squeeze it in there. So I'm going to start way up at the top. I'm going to show you how to get Shelley's, and then you're going to go ahead and get Daley's amount. So you're going to have Shelley's amount, Daley's amount, and then who got the most votes. So it says, in the voting for City Council Precinct 5, only a half of eligible voters cast votes. What fraction of all eligible voters voted for Shelley? What fraction voted for Daley? Who received the most votes? 3 question marks, 3 answers. And so let's see. So let's take the first one, Shelley. What fraction did she get? She got 1/10. So I'm going to write that up here. Shelley got 1/10 of, what did she get 1/10 of? She got 1/10. She didn't get 1/10 of Daley's. She got 1/10 of half the people who were eligible. So she got 1/10 of that 1/2. So 1/10 of the 1/2. And then what happens when you have the word of? Because sometimes you have to put your own of in there. So on this one, it's going to be 1/10. If you said multiply, you are correct. 1/10 times 1/2. And what does that come to? What fraction? So she got, out of that half of eligible voters, she got 1/20th. And is that right? Go way down to the bottom. And that is right there. So she got 1/20th. So you might want to do Daley's work right here. So go back up and look how I got Shelley's. You're going to do Daley's. Let me do some odd ones before I go back to those type. Let's look at the algebra. I'm going to give you a hint because I don't want to do it. What is the value of the n in this equation? 2/3 times what will give you 4/9. Well, I'm going to give you a hint. 2 times what will give you 4? 3 times what will give you 9? Make a fraction and see which one comes to that. How can you use multiplication to find the perimeter? If you knew every side was 5 feet, 5 feet, 5 feet, 5, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'd go, oh no, there's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I'd go 6 times 5. Think about that when you're doing this one. This is another one that's a little bit off. It's not really the fractions that we're doing. Will $50 be enough to buy 6 cans of paint? Well, 1 can cost $8.95. How do you think you could find the cost for 6 of those? And please don't go 8.95, 8.95, 8.95. There's a shortcut way to do that. I think you can handle that. This one we'll do real fast. I want to be done in just a couple minutes. Is 4/9 times 7/8. They're telling you is 7/18. And how did they get that, by the way? It looks like they reduced this out. 1, and that goes in 2. So 9 times 2 is 18. So now they're just switching it. They're saying, well, what's 7/8 times 4/9? Well, it's just the commutative property. How do you know without multiplying? Well, the commutative property. I'll write that. Commutative. Have we done those before? I don't know. I can't remember. But it is called the commutative property when you switch the order, when you just change the order the answer is going to be the same. But again, I would just work it out. So that's 1, and that is 2. And again, it comes to 7 over 18. So that is it. That answer isn't at the bottom. So I'm going to give you a couple hints on, oh, I know which one we were going to do. All right. So I'm going to tell you something about this one. So you need to read this carefully. She gives 1/3 of her apples, not her grapes. She gives 1/3 of her apples to Christine. 1/3 of, what do you think of means? Okay, so think about that. 1/3 of her apples. Do you know how many apples? How many pounds? Yes. Set it up. Now, here's the big question. It's that answer is not going to be what you think, because the question is, once she gives 1/3 of her apples, how many pounds of apples does she have left? If I had 5 pounds and I gave away if I had 5 pounds and I gave away 3 pounds, I'd have 2. So there's something that you need to do. I'll just real fast. 3/5 of the movies were rented. Hint of and the movies. If you have the movies, you can substitute that number from movies. So let's look at, on this one, he wants to make half of this recipe. Half of the recipe. I inserted the word of, but you should be able to. He wants to make half of the recipe. So think about that, and I think you can get 42. So let's look at this one, and this is going to be the last one that we do, and then you're going to finish up this page. This went longer than I thought, so sorry. How far did he run in all? All right, 1 lap around the track is 1/4 mile. He runs 6 laps around the track. All right, so let's start with that. He ran 6 laps around the track. And how long was the track? If you said 1/4 mile, you're correct. So he went 6 times 1/4. He went that 1/4 6 times. So that's going to be, can we reduce that out? Yes. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. So that's wrong. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that's 3 times 1 is 3. And then 1 times 2 is 2. But then it says he runs 2.5 miles to get home. So how far does he run in all? In fact, I think I'm going to let you finish this up. How far does he run in all? So this is a mixed number, and let's make this a mixed number. So far he's run 1 and 1/2 miles. 1 times 2 is 2. He's ran 1.5. Show your work on how you're going to get the final answer. So again, end, he runs 2.5 miles. All right, girls and boys, I think you can do that. So page 282, page 279, and start reviewing those pages. All righty, you all have a great weekend.